So, welcome to our first installment of How Do I? So, we actually have had two responses on our first day. So, let's take a look at those responses and then we're going to dive into answering. First one: how do you create a matching section when creating a quiz? I tried, but I'm unsuccessful. And the other one is there a way to hide assignments from previous quarters and remove them from your to do list since I do not sync Canvas to Skyward? So both really great questions. So let's dive into the hide assignments first. So uh, within Canvas, there is the capability to actually have marking periods. Our IT thought best not to do that. I've asked for that maybe to be something to think about for the future. But in any event, since we don't have that option, typically you would see a window right here where you could subdivide by quarter. So the workaround, and especially if you're someone who doesn't sync to Skyward, uh, it wouldn't affect you as much. You probably just have them all going under assignments. So teacher view is very different from student view. So if you're just trying to kind of free up so that you're not seeing stuff from October, then what I would suggest is you can collapse that category, maybe even name it like something like, I don't know, semester 1 assignments, and just kind of save that, and you could drag it to the bottom, move it out of the way, and then you can create a new group, and we'll call it, I don't know, MP4. Now it's going to put this group all the way at the bottom, just by default. So, one of the things you can do to kind of organize it is collapse any groups you've already created. And then really you can just bring the one that you want to see, and the most current one, you can just move that group to the top. And so now when you come to assignments in the future, you're going to see this. And then when you go to make any future assignments, you can start here, and then you'll see that it's going to default to whatever group you have at the top. So now all future assignments are going to go right into this MP4 assignment group, and then it'll be a much sleeker view. When you go to assignments, you'll be seeing your most recent stuff. So I think that should answer that portion of the question. Uh, and if you were someone who cared about syncing to Skyward, then I would suggest just the category name, edit it to say MP and whatever the marking period is, and then just create a new classwork so that you can sync with classwork. But if you're someone again who's not syncing, then it really doesn't matter what you name it. Only if you care to sync, you then would have to edit MP4 to say something like classwork, homework, project, whatever categories you would use within Skyward. Now, as far as the to do list goes, I believe they're talking about having the assignments as kids submit them on Canvas. It goes into your teacher to do list. And so, really, the easiest way to do away with them is to just snooze it by hitting an X. Because when you hit that X, it goes away and it tells you that it will only reappear if a new submission is made. So if you are, if every kid's turned it in and you just decided not to grade it in Canvas, um, then the system's not going to mark it done for the student, and it's not going to take it off of your to-do list. So if that's your prerogative, then just maybe hit that X. Otherwise, as kids turn them in, becomes a really nice feature because you can see the product. So this was a simple text entry demo. You can give them feedback to tell them to resubmit or whatever the issue was. And then once you give the grade, you're going to notice that red circle is going to change once I click off that box. And now it's off my to-do list. So when I go back to my main page, now you'll only see two assignments or one assignment in my to-do list because I hushed the other one. I graded the one. So if you're not going to grade it, maybe just hush it. And that would be the easiest way to get it off of your to-do list. So if I understand that correctly, hopefully that answers both parts of that. And then the other one was about creating a quiz with matching. And so really there are two types of quizzes. So when you hit plus quiz, you probably notice you're getting an option now. Classics is in my opinion the best one to use because it's old faithful. It's The new quizzes, however, has a lot of fancy question types, and I think in this environment, if you're just you know using it to learn and not using it to assess, then playing with new quizzes and using all of those cool question types, this might be the perfect opportunity to play with all of those. But let's start with matching in classic quizzes. So when you go here, it kicks out an unnamed quiz and you have a bunch of details. But for the matching portion of it, you're going to go here and hit new question. Now it's going to default to multiple choice, but you can see we could clearly move that down and select matching. Now in this top portion, this is where you're going to put your prompt. Please match the state with the capital. And then you're down here is where you're going to put that. So if I put Pennsylvania, and then over here I'll put Harrisburg. If I put California, then over here I put Sacramento. If I put over here Alaska, and here Juneau. If I put over here, I don't know, let's say Ohio. And I think it's Columbus. I apologize if it's not. If you want to add more, then you just hit add another. If you want a distractor, you can add in distractors there. And then you have an opportunity to provide feedback if they get it right, feedback if they got it wrong, and just general feedback no matter how they answered. So now I can do this. If I click this box, it'll show me all of my options that I selected. And now let's take a look at what the student would see. So let me just save it without actually, we'll call it states. And so if I save it, not necessarily publish, I don't have to do that since it's just a demo. But here's what the student would see. So they're going to see it, and then they'll have their drop down, including, and in no particular order. You see that Sacramento was the first option. So sometimes people say when they put it across there, they're worried that the kid's going to automatically see the answers. No, it's intuitively scrambling and including any of those distractors in there. And the nice thing about the classic quizzes is it'll actually give partial credit. So you'll see here that I'm going to get half of them right. And so when I submit this, it's going to auto grade it, and it's going to give me half of a point because the whole quiz in theory is worth 1 point. So you can see that it gave me half a point. So it's really nice, the functionality. That same functionality it is not as nice in new quizzes. So if you were to select new quizzes, it gets a little tricky because you're going to give it a name. So if I did the same thing, or if I named it just a little bit different, whatever point value you put here. So let's say I put 8. You're going to have to make sure you make that same number of points. So you kind of want to think about all of the questions in the test when you do it this way. Otherwise, you can have some issues with that because it's considered an external tool. So let's fast forward. I have to hit save here to get to the question builder. That's because it's an external tool. And now I'm going to hit this blue button. And when I do matching, you're going to see it's pretty intuitive. This question title is merely for sorting in category. So you might say stuff like Unit 1 because it's really just the teacher function. So if you were going to make a final at the end of the year and you wanted to pull a question from every unit, by having it have a certain name, it would be easier for you to find or pull a question from each of those units. So here I would say, please match state to capital, just like I did that instructions in the other area. And then here I am doing the same thing I did in the other one. And then I can add those distractors below. Forget what others. Oh, I think I did Alaska. And then I did Ohio. And then I could add more if I wanted to, or I could add those distractors like I did before. Um, and voila. And then I'll hit done, and then it'll give me the option to preview that um, up here. And then you can see that if I do that same thing and get half of them right, it's not going to um, it's not going to give me partial credit. So that's a big point of contention for people. So if you're giving them unlimited uses and you're telling them ahead of time, hey guys, on the matching, you got to get 100 right. It's all or nothing. I mean, if you're using that as an assignment to help produce learning or as a formative assessment, then I don't see any problem with that. You just have to be upfront with the kids about that functionality. The hope is that eventually this new quiz will have that and will function like that. So hopefully that helps answer that question, and stay tuned for more segments. Thanks.